Guys, let's face it, Redfall sucked the blood out of our veins, and this is coming from a guy after experiencing the game after two major patches. I couldn't imagine what the game was like where enemies just stood around. Man, that would have been great for me if the vampires just stood around and let me stake them, but alas, they patched the game before I got to play it and do that. So, Redfall arguably is the most controversial game of this year. You arrive on an island that's been taken over by sinister vampires and obsessed cult members. Hey, cool setup. Concept's really great and intriguing. After playing the first level, I was determined to play to see why this game generated so much negative buzz. The graphics swing from being kinda good to looking pretty much unfinished. Character models at times look like prototypes. They'll get an extra polish to them one day, and just proof of concept. Everything is barely, I would say, acceptable. And if it had extra light and polish, would have looked incredible, in my opinion. Player characters seem kind of generic. They don't seem fully fleshed out. I really didn't want to pick any of them, to be honest. I settled on Jacob since he seemed like the most likable of them all. Environments like the firehouse look, decent, look finished. Vampires look great, but the human characters everywhere look like a work in progress, unfortunately. The audio seems average overall. Bullets fire, people talk, but the dialogue, the writing just feels really average, just unfinished. Weapons of various classes can be found. They'll make your fight against the overpowered enemies easier in theory. I had no ammo for these weapons, so they really did not help me at all. And while Redfall is supposed to be a co-op 4-player shooter, it feels almost impossible at the beginning with the weak weapons you have. To be fair, it's an RPG open world shooter, but vampires are extremely powerful, cultists are plentiful, and it is super rare for you to escape being chased by these vampires or werewolves, as I discovered. My first thought upon playing this is the world is very empty, and this was within the first minute. I'm like, where's everybody? Which kind of makes sense. The humans have been killed off, presumably, for the most part, and then hiding. But still, you're walking around, there were almost no enemies, and this is just, that shouldn't be what you really feel like in a game where it's a shooter. There should be a decent number of enemies you encounter. You think they would be guarding the water, even though, the water's being held up high. Long story short, without giving too many details. So apparently they have added enemies to the game, which I find really hard to believe. Quite a lot apparently, and I'm still running down streets and it feels like an unfinished game, like it's empty everywhere. I heard there were even less enemies before the two major patches. Really hard for me to imagine at this point. Despite using stealth in my travels and after dying 20 different times or more, the difficulty was still hard on dusk. So I went to the easiest setting, which I think is daylight, and I did not really notice a difference at all. If it's on the easiest setting and it still plays hard, what's going on? So other than the fact that the game was consistently more frustrating than fun. So this is probably what people are complaining about. Ammo, even after two major patches, getting ammo is ridiculously difficult, makes the extra enemies, mostly challenging vampires in clusters that go after you, which I noticed, almost impossible to fight. It would make more sense to have more enemies that are less powerful and with more ammo dropped every time, and that way you have a fighting chance. No, this game does not set up that way. Vampires seem to be the most powerful enemies I've encountered yet. Even on the easiest difficulty, they charge you and stalk you, which apparently they didn't do before, like hard mode for other games. They just do not leave you alone. Everything about this game just feels unfinished, unpolished. From all the rumors, they need the extra time with delays to make Redfall into a shippable product, even if it's obviously super unpolished. The game looks okay overall in the areas I play, but everything about this game seems unbalanced. The weapons are extremely weak. Ammo is way too rare to progress in a logical manner. Enemies have been added, yet are too overpowered, especially in groups. The sad part is Redfall, to me, has a great concept and feels like much of the game needed a third delay. I think it only had two as far as I know. Half-hearted stills for cutscenes, characters that are devoid of personalities, and are generic. Weapons with no ammo. Brief 3 to 4 hour gameplay. Apparently the game's really short. I got to like the second level, but then with extra enemies it just became ridiculous. So players can, with more ammo added so that the players can enjoy the fight against the enemies, not suffer for choosing to pay $100 for a half-finished game. And if they were aware, as the rumors are, that this game was unfinished way before they released it, they should have just deleted it again instead of having to lose their reputation. So just everything feels average at best, which is unfortunate. It does not feel like Redfall is salvageable at this point. It's not like Dead Island 2, where it was actually fun, funny lines, awesome weapons. This feels like the opposite, but in a vampire setting. The game, like, even if it has 60 frames per second or not, the game needs heavy rebalancing with the enemies, more ammo added, so players can just like play the game and not suffer for choosing this game and thinking it was going to be good after all the hype. So it really, Redfall feels like 4 out of 10 at best. 4 months after release, adding 2 new characters, which we don't even know if we're still getting at this point with the DLC, isn't going to fix the game feeling broken beyond repair unless Arcane is prepared to rebalance the whole game, because that's what needs to be done here. It's not just the graphics in some areas looking good and other areas they don't look finished. Just the whole basic balancing of the game is just out of whack. It's going to take a lot of work. So apparently there are only 10 or less people still playing it. I heard rumors 3 people were online last week or something. I didn't check last night when I tried to progress further and see more of the game. I would just wish I could enjoy the game, finish it. Maybe if they could have a good concept, maybe enjoy the sequel, what it should have been, because this doesn't feel like Back 4 Blood. It just feels like a really broken game. It doesn't even feel like Left 4 Dead. It just seems so unpolished, but like with all these issues causing it to feel almost unplayable, impossible to progress. So Redfall so far feels like the most overhyped and broken game easily I've played yet this year, and that's saying something in a year with Lord of the Rings, Gollum, and Starfield being released, and like it just shocked me. Like I thought, is it really that bad? Like, is it really that unpolished? Are the enemies that sparse or overpowered, and ammo that like I couldn't believe it. I was just in total disbelief. Yes, it's true. So yeah, I'd say it's a 4 out of 10 easily. This game should be like $10-20, and hopefully they fix it. I really doubt they will. It's going to take a lot of work. So protect your vaults from the financial vampires and keep on gaming.